Hello and welcome back to the Pause podcast with me, Faye Cornhill.
And me, Helen Hopkins. It's time to grab a cuppa and have a good old chat.
Because today we are talking about the biggie. The road to HRT is what my note card says, Helen.
I think HRT is so wonderful. It has been so wonderful for me, but I also know it's truly contentious. I think before we start talking, we should just reiterate that we're not medical professionals.
Absolutely not.
That we're just sharing our journey and we're sharing our experience.
Yes.
If you do want to get HRT, then obviously do speak to someone who is medically qualified to give you really good advice. But we just felt that Pause is all about talking about midlife and body changes and how we have helped ourselves and supported ourselves feel more balanced, more able to kind of catch our breath and more us, really.
Yeah.
Because I know that you have been experiencing quite a lot of changes, haven't you?
Yep.
So tell me about, I should say, like, how did you feel before you started HRT?
Quite different than I thought I should feel at this. So I think this is an important thing to mention. When I was growing up, I thought menopause happened to old ladies.
Yes.
And they got hot flushes.
Yes.
And you had to sit them down and wave something in their face to cool them down.
Yeah.
And we all had a bit of a laugh about it. And then she recovers and we're all good.
Yeah. Moving on.
That was my perception of things. Now, thankfully, and quite rightly, I think more and more people are talking about perimenopause and menopause and the symptoms and the pitfalls and all the rest of it. So I think we are lucky to be women at this time. Absolutely. And I think it's really important to say that. My symptoms were just not feeling quite like myself.
Yeah.
And I would say I am quite an aware person. Yeah. I'm quite aware of my emotions and my feelings. I know when something's off. I trust my intuition. It's like my North Star. And so when you're off kilter with all of those things, but you didn't think it was menopause because I'm not having hot flush. I've never had a hot flush.
No.
In fact, I'm such a cold soul. I don't think a hot flush could get through this cold body of mine. Yeah. So it was just this overall feeling of not quite feeling right, and not myself. The brain fog was absolutely a real thing and still is a real thing. I used to pride myself on, and by the way, I don't think this is a good thing, but I used to pride myself on being able to do 10 things at one time. It's not smart or sensible to do that, but I could do it.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was working, people used to say like, oh my God, how can you juggle all of those things at the same time? My brain just could contain all of that information. And then suddenly I'd be struggling to, I'd walk into a room and think, what in the hell have I walked in here for?
Yeah.
Or walk out the front door and be like, I've forgotten where I'm going.
Yeah.
So brain fog, just not really feeling like myself, very achy joints, really achy joints, and a very horrible, and I would say this is the worst bit of all of it for me, is waking up with a wave of anxiety.
Yeah.
And I'm not anxious about things.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely
You're
not.
Pragmatic, aren't you? If there's a problem, you work out a solution to move past it.
Yeah.
So actually that feel of anxiety, which we've all had, that kind of sickness at the bottom of your stomach.
Like the real wave.
Not actually knowing what you're anxious about.
I know.
Makes it even worse.
And Phil would say to me, as you would, and he's a very patient man who will always try and help me through things. The first question is, what are you anxious about? And when the answer is, I don't bloody know.
Yeah.
That's quite hard to help someone, isn't it?
It really is. And also there's only so much patience. Phil's an incredible guy, but there's only so much patience for those type of conversations, isn't there? Especially when you're so pragmatic.
Yeah.
And he's so used to you going, oh, I've got an ache and pain here, or I'm feeling a bit sick, or this is my life problem, and you doing something about it. You know, for him to then have a Faye who's like, I don't know what to do. It must be very hard for him too.
Yeah, because it's so far removed from my personality type.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, was the worst thing for me. The waking up and feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders and not having a clue why I felt like that, to the point where I've been stood in the shower trying to get myself up, and I was physically sick more than once.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Just because of the anxiety.
And I think as well for you run a number of businesses, you run a very efficient life. It feels like, you're pragmatic, you're moving forward, you're courageous. So for you to go from that to feeling sick in the shower and unable to kind of like start your day must have just been awful.
Just really confusing, because that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
And never have been. So I would label it as very confusing, because I don't know why I'm being like that.
Yeah.
How about for you?
So for me, it started with super heavy periods. So I went on the pill, and I didn't actually want to go on the pill. I was like, I went through a phase of not wanting to put very much medication in my body, and I still stand by that. I still think actually if there are things, holistic ways that I can manage symptoms, that's always my first port of call, because that's just my belief. And so I went to the doctor. I was having these absolutely like debilitating periods, so much so that I actually went to the hairdresser once. I was thinking about this on the drive down today. I went to the hairdresser once. I flooded, and I got to the car and I was like, oh my God, I flooded my trousers. I get home, clean myself up, and then I have to phone the hairdresser up to say, I'm really sorry, I didn't realise, but my period flooded my trousers, which means there will be some on the chair. Would you like me to come back and clean it up? Like, devastating. They were so lovely. She was such a nice lady. She was like, of course not. We'll sanitize the chair. Don't worry about it. Chill out. Because ultimately, you're mortified. It's something you haven't experienced before.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're having to like express what's happened to other people, which is really difficult. Like, it's awful. So it started off with heavy periods. I went on the pill. And then I just started to get tiny little things happen. So like my body would ache and my sleep was impacted, and I felt just anxious a lot. And as you know, when I was actually when I actually got HRT, my mum had just died a couple of months before. So I was navigating deep grief from now both my parents passing away, whilst also feeling super tired all the time, not feeling myself, super foggy. But the worst thing was I started to get a tiny bit of incontinence in the day. So I like to talk about that area of my body.
We have discussed your wetting of oneself a few times in life, haven't we?
And I started to become just a tiny bit incontinent in the day. So I remember being at like a parents' evening for the girls, and I was wearing a summer dress, and I suddenly went, oh, that just doesn't feel right. So I'm in this summer dress. And you think, well, if I stand up, am I going to look like I'm going to wet myself? So I kind of keep myself seated until everyone else has left the hall. And I just thought, I'm just not going to live this way.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I'm really sad from my mum passing away, and all the stuff that grief brings, actually, it's not okay to think you're going to wet yourself. And it was just a tiny dribble. It wasn't like my whole bladder. But that was really the icing on the cake. And that's when I reached out for help. Now, my mum, as you know, passed away from breast cancer. So I was always really worried about HRT. Like, what does that actually mean? So instead of going to my GP, I actually went privately and spoke to a private clinic, a private menopause clinic. And I know I am privileged to be able to do that. But because of my family history, I didn't want a 10-minute conversation with my GP. Not that I can even get one. 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Not that I can even get a conversation with my GP. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to pay privately to go to someone who is an expert, who will be able to look at the bigger picture and also discuss the actual risks for me. And that's how I got my HRT.
I think this is really interesting because people like to make assumptions about your feelings, and we're very lucky with our partners, but somebody could have looked at your scenario and said, Helen, you are suffering with grief.
Exactly.
And somebody could have looked at my scenario and said, you are suffering with stress.
Exactly. Or depression or anxiety. Or
like, and I've heard people, I've heard people say, oh, no wonder you can't think of the word because you've got so much on, you should stop something. And actually, I think we should be encouraged to look at a solution that isn't giving up all the things that make you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the solution for me definitely wasn't, well, I'll give up one of my companies.
Yeah,
because that just that would make me stressed.
Really stressing.
Then I would have actual anxiety. And it is a grey area, and we're just two friends, and look at our two scenarios, really different.
Yeah,
I've thankfully, and I know it's coming at some point, never had incontinence. Am I open to the fact that will happen to me at some point? Of course I am.
Yeah.
But everybody has different situations. I was speaking with a friend of mine recently who was actually diagnosed with depression, and it wasn't. It was perimenopause, and offered. This is the scary bit. Offered antidepressants. Yeah. And she said no, because she was trusting of the intuition that said, I don't think it's that. I really don't think it is that. And it is difficult. And this episode is by no means to point fingers at medical experts, because crikey, can you imagine trying to take women and diagnose all of those things and consider outside life example, because a woman like me could go to a GP with exactly the same symptoms and be stressed, or could be, I don't know, like 100 things.
Yeah.
A victim of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Like actual depression, like all of the things.
And I think as well, let's face it, like perimenopause is niggly things. You had elevated anxiety, but probably on reflection, maybe you've referenced the fact that your body aches a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe you have been a little bit tired. Maybe your sleep has been impacted. And when you look at the list of symptoms of perimenopause, well, that could just be midlife.
It's bizarre. I have a funny eye twitch. This is lols. My eye suddenly goes a bit funny, and I thought, oh well, is 40 whatever years
it's like
old,
giving up.
It's just gone a bit funny. And then I was looking on this list the other day, and it said like twitchy eye or something, and I was like, no,
bionic eye, actually.
No way, I've got a twitchy eye. This is insane.
Yeah.
So similar to you, I, again, very privileged, I decided to go to a private company and speak to a GP that specialised in menopause. That wasn't my intention, and I know this because I've told you this before, but I actually spoke to a nurse who works at my GP practice, who is a lovely lady. She is very lovely. I was there for something else, my smear test. Delight.
Delicious.
And I said to her, this is the exact language I used, by the way, which is so passive, and I'm so not like this, but I said to her, I'm not entirely sure that I'm not perimenopausal. How female is that sentence? I was like, oh my God. And she went, oh no, you're too young. And I was like, oh, okay. And you know me, Helen. I've got an answer for everything. I'm never stuck for words.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I just felt like, well, she's older than me. She's a medically trained person. She's lovely.
Yeah.
She's a woman.
Yeah.
She probably knows best. So okay. And then she said, well, the problem with finding out whether you are perimenopausal or not is, what are you going to do with that information? That was exactly what she said.
Oh.
And I said, well, I mean, take some drugs.
Like, give me the good stuff.
I've seen on Instagram and stuff. And she was like, yeah, it doesn't really work like that. And in that moment, I was like, no. I just need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because what
I need to get dressed.
Yeah, I need to get myself out of here, because what she had done, and I know it wasn't intentional, because she is lovely, but what she had done was completely simplify what in my head had been something very big. And this waking up with anxiety every morning was just getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah. And she'd made me feel like, don't be so stupid. You know me, Helen, I'm a very capable, strong woman who doesn't like to feel ridiculous. Yeah. So I was like, okay. And she said, well, you can book an appointment with the GP if you feel like it's necessary. And I was like, okay, just don't worry about it. Don't worry. And I just got out of there, and I felt all really flustered, had a little cry in the car, and I got home and I was like, hang on a minute, you need to do something about this. And that's when I booked my appointment. And I just want to say it again, we are very privileged to be in a situation to do that. It was a couple of £100, and I know not everyone has that. And I'll tell you, that made me feel guilty actually for quite a while, that there are other women out there that a couple of £100 is, you know, food for a long time.
Exactly.
And I've just whooped it on booking a private appointment. And I felt really bad about that because I don't know how bad my anxiety could have got.
Well, and we hear horrible stories.
Oh God.
About, and we've discussed them privately, about women not being seen, not being treated correctly, you know, and doing unthinkable things that you would never want to do, all based on the fact that maybe they're perimenopausal or menopausal, or there's something going on and they can't get the support.
It's awful. It's awful.
Really awful. And I think that's why these conversations are really important.
Yeah.
Because whoever's listening at home or on their lunch break or on their walk around the park, you know, actually making this feel normal is really, really important. And I know to both of us, that's why we created Pause.
Yeah.
Because actually we're having these conversations privately with our group of friends, and these conversations need to be bigger. They need to be louder. They need to be just more common. And you're right, we were both very privileged to be able to go privately. But the more we know about HRT, the more we know about perimenopause and menopause care, the better for everyone.
Absolutely. Because I feel like, you know, the whole, you buy a red car and then you see red cars everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like everywhere I go at the moment, someone's saying like, and you sort of go, oh, yeah, a bit of brain fog there. And then you say, oh, are you actually suffering with that? Yeah, massively. I really am.
Yeah.
I feel like everywhere I go, every friend I'm in the company of is going through this. And that's because we're of a certain age and our friends are of a certain age.
Yeah.
But this whole, well, you're too young at 43 is completely ridiculous. I have friends in their 30s who are perimenopausal, and I've got friends who don't experience anything until their 50s. It's not like you've reached the age of graduation from a normal female human adult. Off you go to Crazyville.
Yeah. It's really unfair, isn't it? It's just really super unfair. So talk to me about, so you picked your private clinic.
Yep.
And then how did that go? Talk to me about that.
So it was an hour-long session, which blew my brain.
And you think, how are you going to talk for an hour?
Yeah, quite. And at the end, I was like, how are we going to finish this? And really lovely GP that didn't feel rushed. I felt like I could get everything off my chest. Whilst not necessarily a complication, I have endometriosis, as you know.
Yes.
And it transpires that I'd been given some quite poor advice about the removal of my Mirena coil. So I had a Mirena coil after I had Grace, which is 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've had... not the same one, because you have it replaced.
I was going to say, that's quite an old
That's
coil.
a good one. So, yeah, I've been on the Mirena coil for a long time. And I was given what I know now to be some quite poor advice. The Mirena coil is excellent at helping, not everybody, and again, not medically trained, but is excellent for some women who suffer with endometriosis at relieving the symptoms.
Okay.
I had no periods on the Mirena coil. God bless. And it meant that every month, this thickening of my uterus was not happening, which exasperates the pain and the heavy periods. So it was a real godsend for me. And I saw somebody who said, and I know now how poor this advice is. I saw somebody who said, you're really coming to an age where it's a good idea to lessen the hormones that you're adding to your body. And the advice I was given was to remove the Mirena coil. Which was an absolute disaster, Helen. It got stuck. Every man and his dog was having a look up there. I had 3 doctors at one point trying to pull it out. It was painful. I would rather have a child. I would rather have an emergency C-section than that. They had to inject my cervix. I don't know. Have you ever had your cervix injected?
No.
It's not pleasant.
I'm not sure I know where my cervix is.
I do. Only because of that. And I walked out and I was sick in the car park. It was something that nobody needed to get near. It was awful. Anyway.
That sounds horrific.
It was horrific. And that's not normal. Please don't panic if you have got a Mirena coil. It should be really straightforward. And every other time it had been. But this whole thing was really unnecessary. I now know.
Which makes it even worse.
I know. I was like,
you think you're doing the right thing for your body, and then suddenly you find out, actually, I wouldn't have had all these symptoms, because I know that you have been having a lot of symptoms.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah. So had an hour-long discussion about that, about childbirth, about it kind of felt like therapy. You know, sometimes just telling someone your life story out loud. And it was really nice. She was lovely, very understanding. And she said to me, you absolutely need HRT. She said, you're not even borderline. You need this and you need it now.
Give it all to me.
And I was like, yes, please.
Send it.
She prescribed me the progesterone only pill.
Yes.
Which doubled up. It means that I'm not having to go through bad periods, which were happening.
Yeah.
And that helps with the endometriosis side of things.
Great.
And then the estrogen gel.
Yes.
2 days later, a courier arrives with my box of goodies, and I love post. That was the best post I've ever received.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, Helen, within a day, and I can't be a placebo. I'm so sure of it. I felt like a new person. I remembered what it was to feel like me. I said that to you on that message.
Yeah.
I was like, I had so lost sight of what I used to feel like as a normal functioning adult.
Yeah.
And it was just back.
And isn't that wonderful?
I mean,
beyond.
But it comes with a wave of sadness, I feel, because there are so many people that, for whatever means, are not getting that help.
Definitely. Yeah.
All over the world.
Yeah.
And that kind of pains me. But for now, I'm just dining out on the fact that I feel like I've remembered who I am again. And that's
so wonderful.
Quite a thing.
And actually, there has been a change in you. I can see the change in you. Like when you arrived this morning, I was like, wow, Faye, you look really like radiant and buoyant and really well.
Thanks,
yeah. And actually, you can feel it. You can feel the difference in your energy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was chatting to a friend of mine who's a little bit older than me, and she was like, God, just wait till you get to like 45, between 45 and 48. They give HRT out like Smarties. And it's like, why at 44 should I be arm wrestling a doctor to give me something which I know will make a massive difference to me? And I think the change in my mindset was that HRT is hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
This isn't like something that your body doesn't normally have. It's something that your body is no longer making in the quantities required.
Yeah.
So you're just giving your body a little top up.
Yeah. And when you put it like that, it's like taking a multivitamin.
Of course it is. And how many people take like multivitamins from some random company on the internet that they're like, well, I've heard that hemp 3 makes a massive difference. So I take 17 of these a day. And you're
What's
like,
hemp 3 Helen?
I don't even know. I think I made that up, to be honest. That's how much I know about multivitamins. Because people buy anything on the internet, don't they? And put it in their body. And actually, there's a lot of people that are very fearful of HRT. My sisters are 2 people who are a case in point. And actually, we also know that HRT is great for osteoporosis, and it's great for lifestyle conditions that we have later in life.
Yeah.
And it's not right for everyone, but it is right for us.
Oh, I mean,
night and day, isn't it?
Night and day. Almost like I can't really put into words.
Yeah.
And it was so quick for me.
Yeah.
That was the bit that blew me away.
I also think, though, part of it is the relief that someone is listening to you.
Yeah.
That it's not all in your head. And that actually there is an option for you.
Yeah. I think I'm very lucky, and I really do consider myself very lucky to have not in life so far really suffered with any mental health issues. And not that I was, but I think that's the closest I've ever got to what in the world is going on.
Yeah.
Because positive thinking can't get you out of that.
It can't.
I can't journal my way out of that or ice bath my way out of it.
No.
I just can't.
Yeah.
And I needed some help. And you're right, it was being heard. That's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And then give me the drugs.
Yeah. And actually, knowing that there's a solution, because you're a very solution focused person.
Yeah.
So knowing that there was a solution for you to make you feel more yourself, brighter, more energized, less foggy, and let's face it, not vomiting in the shower.
Yeah.
That is not that's not a normal daily thing that people should do.
No.
And if you are doing that and you're at home listening, do ask for the help. Like, don't be scared.
Yeah.
I think I, as you know, have had two very poorly parents, two very ill parents, and I'm often fearful about asking for help about things. We were talking about checking our breasts this morning.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about really fun things. We're going to tell everyone in the pod. But it's like actually doing the things that are sometimes scary, but are going to help you afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hel's your HRT?
Yeah. So I, as you know, I'd lost my mum and I just felt broken, Faye. And the incontinence was like the icing on the cake. And I was like, yes, I'm sad. Yes, I'm not eating the correct food. Yes, I am navigating probate and selling houses and all of that, like difficult things. And as you know, my dad passed away 5 years ago. So then my mum passed away last year. And so it's the grief of dad and mum because we're selling our family home and all that stuff. And I was scared to go to the doctor because I thought they would say to me, well, you're just grieving. Your mum's just died. Like, be kinder to yourself. But as you know, in the midst of that, my business had a massive boom. I had lots of really incredible opportunities for business. And I wanted to be able to be me. Like, even though I was sad and grieving, I wanted to be me. And the aching, the sleep deprivation, the fogginess, like I would sleep every afternoon for an hour. And yes, that's a grief thing, but it's also a bigger picture. And so I said to my husband, I was like, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm going to book privately because I don't want to go to the doctor and be fobbed off. Now, I totally appreciate there will be medical professionals listening to this. Perhaps I should have given the doctor the option to actually have a go, to try.
There are some phenomenal GPs out there.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I really hope everyone listening has got one of those.
Yes. For me, in my area, it's very hard to get an appointment. You have to do an e-consult within a certain time in the day between 8 and 10. And then they may call you back. So actually, I was like, I'm going to go private. I've got the means to do so.
Yeah.
I had a great conversation with the most wonderful menopause practitioner, Sian. She'll probably listen to this. She knows I'm like her biggest fan. And I came on the call, burst into tears and said, Sian, my mum died, but I know that this isn't just grief. I know that there is something inside of me that is not right. This is everything. My mum had breast cancer. I'm scared of HRT because I don't want my children to have to go through what I've gone through. And she just gave me a hug. Like if she could have given me a physical hug, she would have done.
Yeah.
But the reality, she gave me a hug with her words and with her soul and her energy. And she was like, Helen, you need this. Yeah. This is something that your body is not making, that you are just replacing. I went on, so I'm fancy. I get testosterone.
You nearly said testosterone. What's that?
That is not the thing. So I have that a little bit because of the incontinence and because of some of the other symptoms. She was like, and I can't get that through the NHS, so I still have to pay for that privately. I have the progesterone only pill. I have the pop and a progesterone pill, and I also have the gel. Yeah. And the great thing I love about the gel is she said, Helen, just start with like 2 pumps to start with, but you can increase it. Like I can make the decision to increase it. And within about 2 weeks, I think she told me to wait longer, but within 2 weeks, I was like, I'm just going to do a third. And honestly, the difference, amazing. No bleeding. Felt myself, and I still have some symptoms which I think probably I could play around with my meds to kind of alleviate them, but I know that the HRT makes me again. And of course, still navigating grief, still navigating a lot of sadness. That's never going to go away. But what I believe the HRT did is it helped me balance like the base of me almost. So actually then I can navigate the sadness easier and better. And I know I'm not the only person in their midlife like navigating the difficult stuff, but for me HRT has kind of propped me up when I needed it the most. But again, we're not medical professionals, so it's really important that everyone does the right thing for them. I know that one of my sisters is like, I just don't want to think about HRT, I'm going to navigate the symptoms, and that is entirely up to her. And I've got other friends who are like, when the time is right, I'm all in. And it's about the right time. I think perhaps had you not got to the point of being so distressed in the shower, you may have waited longer.
It crept up on me. Like, I think the symptoms had actually been arriving on my doorstep for a good 12, 18 months. But they'd been in a back room. And I'm quite good at like...
You're very aware of yourself.
Like, there's something over there, but I'm just going to get on with it. You know, I got a certificate at school, Helen, for never having a day sick in this one particular year.
God.
I know. Hardcore, right? That's not always a good thing though, because you learn to put that in the background and be like,
stoic,
I can handle this. I'm superwoman. So I think it'd been there for a long time. But in those final weeks, I think it was a combination of conversations with friends who were like, this is a real thing. So I'd had that validation that you're not losing the plot. And this is absolutely par for the course. This is what happens to women. It's not like, have I got it or haven't I got it? Whatever it is. And to be honest, I just allowed myself to just pipe down and do it. And it was literally came out, booked the appointment, had it like 2 days later, done. And I'm very grateful to myself in that moment of going, no. And that's the problem, isn't it? Like the word coping is sort of bandied about like, oh yeah, we're all just coping. And some things you do have to just cope with because it's how it goes. Like trying to get your baby to sleep when it's born. It's going to happen. The baby wakes up. But actually, this is not something I think we should expect to cope with because there is something that we can do about it.
Definitely. And one of my biggest tips is, if you feel like there are niggly things happening in your body, like for me, feeling tired, waking up at night, just make a note of them. Like monitor them, because I'm exactly the same as you. Had I started making a note probably 18 months beforehand, I would have gone on HRT probably before my mum had died. And then maybe that would have been like an easier like chapter. But the reality is, like, make a note of what's happening in your body.
I think that's really good advice.
Because whether that is HRT related or something else related, or menopause related, I say, or something else related, it actually doesn't matter. We need to be heard. We need to speak up, and we need to be able to go with some evidence. For the last 6 months,
I think that's really good idea.
I have woken up at 3 a.m. every morning, and that isn't normal.
No.
So, like, what can we do to help that? And I do believe in working with our GPs, but I also know that the GPs are often quite overloaded. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to ask for a new doctor or a different opinion or fight for an appointment. You are absolutely entitled to those things. And we are very fortunate to be able to go private. But if you're not in that place, shout louder.
I agree. I really do. And I think writing down symptoms is she said to me on the phone, how many days did your period last month? I said, bear with me, got my app out. And I was like, 14 days. And I'm like, that's actually not
okay.
But nobody else is asking me that because who else is interested? Nobody, quite rightly. And I was like, and she's like, so you're probably anemic as well. And I'm like, oh so I think that's absolutely sterling advice. Write it down, evidence it, and
there's lots of apps you can use for that as well.
And speaking up, I think, which is hard when you feel like you can't speak up. But I think hopefully listening to us talk about this today has helped.
Definitely. And I also think, because I know we're trying to wrap this up, but like, talk to your friends. Talk to your partner. Talk to your children. We were having a conversation before this about how we just need to be open and honest more. And actually being heard when you are feeling fragmented, when your body feels like it's failing you, is really important. Because actually, I know I said to my husband, do you see differences in me? And he's like, yeah, I really do. And actually, if you ask him about before the HRT and after, he will tell you, like, I was a shell. I was like not really functioning, and now there are still difficult days and difficult moments, but I'm more me than I have been for a really long time.
Same. Good discussion.
Good discussion. We could do this all day.
I mean, maybe there's a part 2 to this.
I feel like there is.
But hopefully you've enjoyed tuning into this episode and hearing our road to HRT. It sounds like a mountain. I mean, it metaphorically, like metaphorically it was. So we hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've taken away some useful bits. Reminder, we are not medical professionals. So if you need help, please go and get it. If you have enjoyed this episode, please hang out, please like and subscribe. We've got plenty more coming this way.
And I think as well, share this with a friend. Like if you've been having these conversations within your friends group and you're like, oh my God, this conversation resonates so deeply, then not long, grab a cuppa, sit and chat with your friend, get them to watch this, because you know, the more the merrier. And we're starting a revolution, aren't we?
We are.
Starting a revolution. Thanks so much for hanging out. We look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye.
See ya. Coming up next week on the podcast, we are going to be talking all about embracing natural beauty.
Oh, this is a tricky one, and I think so fascinating. So make sure you tune in, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.